Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So the obvious question is, how do you really apply to Indian companies? Now, India is a different beast. It's a new place, but the fundamentals of applying to a job or applying for a job are not really very different. It would let me just walk you through what I think is a simplistic flow chart, which is applicable across across most industries and companies. You would typically start off with a short list, because there are so many companies. You need to be very targeted and very focused in probably 5 or 10 companies that you want to target very seriously. In India, the the most effective way is actually to get recruited off business school. And therefore, when you are on campus, the on-campus placement is actually an extremely effective way to break into sort of the best companies as well as the tier one companies, because most of them recruit actively on Indian campuses. Even during the downturn, I don't think there was the recruiting activity really declined as much as it did in US or Europe, because the demand for talent and skill is so high that companies continue to invest in the recruitment processes on campus. So on-campus placement, after you made your shortlist, you decide on the on-campus placement. And while I'm on the on-campus placement tier or that bullet point, I do want to float an idea to many of you who are studying at top business schools in the US and Europe, is to make complete use of the exchange programs that you might have. I know that some of the best schools in India, the business schools in India, have some excellent tie-ups with foreign universities. And if you are able to time your exchange during a recruitment season in India, you would actually be able to leverage that to secure a very good opportunity. So we'll talk a little bit more about that a little ahead. But for point number 2, on-campus placements are an extremely effective way to apply, to directly put your foot in the door with Indian companies. Of course, the third part, as we go down sort of the flow chart, is applying through your network. As I said, the fundamentals don't really change that much. Networking is extremely important in India, as as it is in the US. Of course, the way you network in India might be slightly different, than you do in the US. Probably because there are, all the social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of them have, penetrated and have been growing really quickly. It's still not as much as some of the developed economies. So a lot of the networking still has to be driven through friends, family, and relatives, people and so on and so forth. Okay. The next part, what if networking doesn't work? So where does that leave you? Well, luckily, India has an extremely well evolved executive search as well as headhunting industry. You have headhunters who have carved out a niche in very specific industries, whether it's consulting, whether it's private equity, whether it's financial services, whether it's even information technology, and sometimes even for startups and, for ones who want to take on the entrepreneurship role and want to join as a CTO maybe in an Indian startup. So you have a very good avenue to kind of reach directly to the company through these headhunters who provide the first level of filtering for candidates for these companies. Then you have online portals, job portals. Some of the very popular ones in India are, there are some companies called Naukri.com. Naukri is a Hindi word which means job, as simple as that. You have Monster. Monster has something in India, and LinkedIn now has actually become a pretty effective way for companies. They have started posting jobs on LinkedIn, so that has become a pretty effective way to reach out to companies as well. So that the online portals are also extremely, they're growing. They're extremely popular, and that's another great way to apply to Indian companies. And finally, I would say that there are quite a few companies which take the online, application process quite seriously. Applying directly to the company website, actually yields some good results. However, this has to be taken with a pinch of salt. I can say this through personal experience that there are so many candidates applying for so few jobs that the online website many times is completely flooded with so many candidates that it generally tends to get avoided and ignored. So although it's a good checkbox to have to mark, it may not be the most effective strategy while applying to Indian companies. Okay. Uh, okay, trying to go ahead. Sorry, there's a little bit of okay. So the only caveat here is that although this is an extremely generic flowchart of applying to Indian companies, I must say that each of these strategies have a different efficacy rate. It really depends on the industry and company that one is targeting. And we will walk through. I will talk a little bit about this once in the slides ahead. But there are a few companies, for example, IT companies, which are not at the sort of the premium payers, premium compensation companies. You can easily get a job interview while applying to an online portal like Naukri.com, but a Naukri.com will never yield you a job in a management consulting or a private equity firm. So it really depends on the nature of the job and the industry that you are actually targeting, and then these strategies actually would vary in the results that they yield.